Hey guys, good to see you again. We're going to be reading Chapter 2, The Story from Frog and Toad Are Friends, with permission from HarperCollins Children's Books. Let's begin. The Story. One day in summer, Frog was not feeling well. Toad said, "Frog, you are not looking quite green." "But I always look green," said Frog. "I am a frog." "Today you look very green, even for a frog," said Toad. "Get into bed and rest." Toad made Frog a cup of hot tea. Frog drank the tea, and then he said, "Tell me a story while I am resting." How many times do you like to lay in bed and have somebody read you a story when you don't feel good? I know I do. "All right," said Toad. "Let me think of a story to tell you." Toad thought and thought. He couldn't think of a story to tell Frog. "I will go out to the front porch and walk up and down," said Toad. "Perhaps that will help me think of a story." Toad walked up and down on the porch for a long time, but he couldn't think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad went back into the house and stood on his head. "Why are you standing on your head?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I stand on my head, it will help me think of a story," said Toad. Toad stood on his head for a long time, but he couldn't think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad poured a glass of water over his head. "Why are you pouring water over your head?" asked Frog. "I hope if I pour water over my head, it will help me think of a story," said Toad. Toad poured many glasses of water over his head, but he couldn't think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad began to bang his head against the wall. "Why are you banging your head against the wall?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I bang my head against the wall hard enough, it will help me think of a story," said Toad. Now, that wasn't a good idea. Banging your head against the wall is probably going to hurt your brain, not help your brain. "I'm feeling much better now, Toad," said Frog. "I don't think I need a story anymore." "Then you get out of bed and let me get into it," said Toad, "because I feel terrible now. I told ya, banging your head isn't a good idea." "Would you like me to tell you a story, Toad?" "Yes," said Toad, "if you know one." "Once upon a time," said Frog, "there were two good friends, a frog and a toad. The frog was not feeling well. He asked his friend the toad to tell him a story. The toad couldn't think of a story. He walked up and down on the porch, but he couldn't think of a story. He stood on his head, but he couldn't think of a story. He poured water over his head, but he could not think of a story. He began to bang his head against the wall, but he still could not think of a story. Then the toad did not feel so well, and the frog was feeling better. So the toad went to bed, and the frog got up and told him a story. The end. "How is that, Toad?" said Frog. But Toad did not answer. He had fallen asleep. All right, guys, that's the end of the second chapter. Remember to go back onto Seesaw. Tell me what was your favorite part. Write the sentence and record your thinking. Love you. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll read the third chapter. Bye-bye.